In a courtroom that had grown eerily quiet, Austin Chumlee Russell, the Pawn Stars star adored by millions, collapsed in front of a stunned audience. This wasn't just the final blow to a dramatic trial, it was the breaking point of a career that once seemed invincible. Chumlee, the lovable goofball who had brightened up the lives of millions through his TV antics, was now at the center of a public crisis that no one saw coming. The courtroom fell silent as the final verdict was read and the atmosphere grew. Unbearably tense, this moment would not only change his future but also redefine his place in the hearts of his fans. The courtroom scene, with Chumlee visibly shaken, showed the weight of what he was about to face. No one expected this fall from grace, and the harsh reality of his situation became apparent in that instant. His career, which had soared for years, was now hanging in the balance. The question on everyone's mind was simple: how did a beloved TV personality who once made the world laugh with his funny antics on Pawn Stars end up in this kind of situation? How did a man known for his easygoing attitude and quirky charm go from being a fan favorite to being labeled a criminal? What could possibly have driven this once beloved figure to face these charges? The story of Austin Chumlee Russell is not just a tale of fame and fortune, it's also a reminder of the fragile nature of success, the pressures of public life, and the dark side that can often be hidden behind a smile. This is the untold story of Chumlee's rise to fame, his fall from grace, and the shocking events that led him to stand in that courtroom. This is a story full of surprising twists and new details that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about the Pawn Stars star. So, what happened next? Stick with us as we dive into the details of Chumlee's legal battle and the shocking revelations that followed. For more than a decade, Austin Russell, better known to millions as Chumlee, was a beloved part of the hit TV show Pawn Stars. He started as a humble employee at the gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas, and over time, he became one of the most recognizable personalities in reality television. His charm was simple. He was real. Viewers loved his witty remarks, his lovable clumsiness, and the easygoing way he interacted with his colleagues. But it wasn't just his on-screen antics that made him popular, it was his authenticity. Chumlee didn't try to be anything he wasn't. He wasn't the expert like Rick or the sharp-tongued, quick-witted guy like Corey. He was just Chumlee, the funny guy who occasionally stumbled into crazy situations but always had a good heart. He was relatable, and that made him a fan favorite. Throughout his time on the show, Chumlee became known for his signature moments. From buying that professional pinball machine for the shop to starting his own clothing line, he carved out a place for himself both in front of the camera and behind the scenes. He was more than just the comic relief, he was an integral part of the Pawn Stars team. His unique personality brought life to the show, and as the series reached new heights of popularity, Chumlee's own personal brand started to grow. It wasn't long before Chumlee was branching out into new business ventures. His candy store, Chumlee's Candy on Fremont Street in Las Vegas, became another symbol of his growing empire. Fans could buy everything from candy to t-shirts and collectibles with his face plastered on them. Chumlee had built something that went far beyond Pawn Stars. He had created a brand, but with this success came the spotlight. Chumlee became one of the most talked about stars in the reality TV world, and as his fame grew, so did his influence. The show's popularity skyrocketed, with episodes regularly pulling in millions of viewers. At the height of his fame, Chumlee was known for his larger-than-life presence on the show, but few knew that behind the scenes, things were changing for him in ways that would later shock the world. While fans continued to adore Chumlee for his role on Pawn Stars, behind the scenes, he was facing a much darker reality. "Fame makes you think you're invincible," he once said in an interview, and for Chumlee, the pressure of living up to the public's expectations started to take its toll. As his career on the show continued to soar, so did his personal struggles. Chumlee's fame brought with it a lifestyle that he wasn't prepared for, no longer the humble pawn shop worker. He found himself surrounded by luxury sports cars, designer clothes, lavish parties, and expensive shopping sprees. His social media accounts became filled with photos and videos showing off his new life, and fans couldn't get enough. But what they didn't see was the internal battle he was facing. Fame, it seemed, was starting to eat away at him. Chumlee's life, once grounded and simple, had become a whirlwind of excess. The more successful he became, the more he felt the pressure to keep up the facade of being a larger-than-life celebrity. This internal conflict, the struggle between his true self and the public persona he was expected to maintain, began to take a serious toll on him. He started to feel like he was living two completely different lives. On one hand, he was the fun-loving, charismatic star on Pawn Stars. On the other, he was a man struggling with personal demons, feeling overwhelmed by the fame and the demands that came with it. At one point, Chumlee admitted that the constant attention was wearing on him. Going from being a normal person to not being able to go to Walmart without getting 500 pictures taken, it was driving me crazy, he said. The constant media attention, the invasive nature of social media, and the relentless public scrutiny began to weigh heavily on him. To cope with the pressure, he turned to substances, seeking solace in ways that would ultimately make the situation worse. Chumlee was not just struggling with fame, he was battling his own mental health and emotional turmoil, and few knew just how deep the problem ran. Everything came to a head in March 2016, when Chumlee's life was upended by an investigation that shocked his fans and sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. What started as an investigation into a sexual assault allegation soon escalated into something much more serious. When police executed a search warrant at his Las Vegas home, they found much more than they had anticipated. In addition to the items related to the sexual assault investigation, they discovered a stash of illegal items, including weapons, drugs, and paraphernalia. The news spread quickly, and the public reaction was one of disbelief. How could the man they knew from television, the funny, lovable Chumlee, be involved in something so dangerous and reckless? Fans were left stunned, struggling to reconcile the man they thought they knew with the reality of what had been discovered. Chumlee had built his entire public image on being the down-to-earth, goofy guy from Pawn Stars, but now, it seemed, there was a darker side to him. The discovery of the weapons and drugs was especially troubling because it revealed a stark contrast to the public image Chumlee had carefully crafted. The once carefree, fun-loving TV star was now facing serious criminal charges. TMZ quickly picked up the story, and social media was soon flooded with reactions from fans, many of whom couldn't believe the shocking turn of events. Some even took to Twitter to express how disappointed they were in Chumlee. One fan commented, "He was always so innocent and happy on TV, but in real life, he was a completely different person." The discovery at Chumlee's home sent ripples through the entertainment world, and the public began to question whether he would ever be able to recover from this scandal. In the wake of the shocking discovery at Chumlee's Las Vegas home, the legal consequences came swiftly. Prosecutors quickly filed felony charges against the reality TV star. Among the charges were serious allegations related to the possession of illegal firearms and controlled substances. While the original investigation had been focused on the sexual assault allegations, the police search uncovered far more than anyone expected. Chumlee's world was suddenly turned upside down. The severity of the charges left fans in a state of disbelief. Could this really be happening to the man they had watched for years on television? Was the funny, lovable Chumlee truly guilty of these crimes, or had the media simply sensationalized the story? As the case moved forward, the reality of the situation became more evident. Chumlee was not just facing potential prison time, but his career and everything he had worked for was at risk. His reputation, built over years of television appearances, business ventures, and fan support, was now hanging by a thread. The charges he faced were incredibly serious. If convicted, he could have faced up to 20 years in prison, which was devastating. Not just for him, but for the millions of people who had followed his career. This wasn't just about legal consequences. It was about the end of his public life as he knew it. The public's reaction was mixed. Some fans couldn't believe that Chumlee, the man who had entertained them for so long, could be involved in such a scandal. Others expressed their disappointment, feeling betrayed by the very person they had come to admire. Meanwhile, legal experts began to weigh in on the case, noting that the combination of weapons and controlled substances often led to lengthy prison sentences. Chumlee's defense team, however, was not giving up without a fight. They tried to highlight the fact that Chumlee had no prior criminal record, and they argued that his celebrity status had clouded his judgment and influenced his actions. In the courtroom, the tension was palpable. The prosecution's case was strong, and it was clear that the evidence against Chumlee was damning. His once friendly demeanor was replaced by a sense of somberness and resignation as the trial continued. As the case went on, it became clear that the stakes were higher than anyone had anticipated. Fans who had once watched him with laughter and admiration were now questioning his future in the spotlight. Would this be the end of his career, or could Chumlee somehow overcome these charges and come back stronger than ever? The day of the trial arrived, and the courtroom was packed. Fans and media outlets alike were eager to see what would happen next in this dramatic legal battle. Chumlee, once a carefree and jovial figure on TV, now looked nothing like the man they had watched for years. His face was somber as he entered the courtroom. The cameras flashed as the reality TV star, who had once made millions laugh, now stood on trial for his freedom. The prosecution wasted no time in presenting their case. They focused on the severity of the items found in Chumlee's home: firearms, drugs, and paraphernalia. They painted a picture of a man who had gone off the rails, consumed by the excesses of fame and unable to control his destructive behavior. The defense, on the other hand, tried to argue that Chumlee's fame had led him to make poor choices. His attorney claimed that Chumlee had been swept up in a cycle of glamour and excess, which clouded his judgment and led to these reckless actions. They emphasized that Chumlee had no intention of causing harm, and that the man who had brought so much joy to millions wasn't the same person behind closed doors. As the trial continued, Chumlee remained visibly nervous. He whispered to his attorney multiple times and looked down at the floor as the damning evidence was presented. The images of the weapons and drugs seized from his home were shown on screen, and Chumlee's face betrayed the emotional toll the trial was taking on him. He wasn't the confident TV star we had all seen on Pawn Stars. Instead, he seemed like a man facing the consequences of his actions, struggling to come to terms with the reality of the situation. Throughout the trial, legal experts weighed in on the possible penalties Chumlee could face. The combination of firearms and drugs in his possession could result in a long prison sentence. It wasn't just about what Chumlee had done, it was about the image he had built over the years. He wasn't just any man, he was a public figure, beloved by millions, and now he was facing the consequences of his choices. As the trial entered its final stages, fans watched with bated breath, wondering what would happen next. Would Chumlee be sentenced to prison, or would he get another chance to turn his life around? Finally, the verdict came down. Chumlee pled guilty to one charge of possessing an unregistered firearm and one misdemeanor charge related to controlled substances. All other charges were dropped. The judge sentenced him to 3 years of probation. But with extremely strict conditions, Chumlee would be closely monitored, required to undergo counseling, submit to regular drug testing, and complete 200 hours of community service. The sentencing shocked many, but it wasn't the end of the story. The judge emphasized that any violation of Chumlee's probation terms would result in an immediate prison sentence, and the weight of this ruling seemed to hit Chumlee hard. The courtroom was in stunned silence as the sentence was handed down. Chumlee, visibly shaken, had his world completely turned upside down in a matter of moments. But what happened next was perhaps the most shocking part of the day, as the judge continued reading the terms of his probation. Chumlee, who had been standing with his lawyer, suddenly swayed and collapsed. The room went into chaos as security rushed to help him and medics were quickly called in. The image of Chumlee, once known for his comical antics on Pawn Stars, now lying motionless in the courtroom, was a moment that would be forever etched in the minds of everyone who witnessed it. As the courtroom staff worked to stabilize Chumlee, fans and media outlets were quick to react. The story of his collapse dominated the headlines, overshadowing the details of the trial itself. The emotional toll of the trial had finally caught up with him, and this moment would mark the culmination of his legal crisis. Chumlee's collapse was not just a physical reaction, it was a psychological moment that encapsulated the weight of the journey he had been on. Days after the trial, Chumlee released a heartfelt statement in which he admitted that facing the consequences of his actions had been incredibly nerve-wracking. "The doctor told me I needed to make better choices, and I know he was right," he said, attempting to inject some humor into the situation. But the tone of the statement was noticeably different from his usual carefree style. It was clear that Chumlee was now on a journey of self-reflection and redemption. In an unexpected turn, sources close to the History Channel revealed that the network was leaving the door open for Chumlee's return. While there was no official confirmation, the idea of a redemption arc for the beloved star seemed to be gaining traction. Chumlee himself expressed a desire to focus on recovery, saying that he was grateful for the chance to make things right. This marked a dramatic shift in his public image from the funny, carefree man on Pawn Stars to a man now confronting the mistakes of his past. Chumlee's story is far from over. What seemed like the end of his career may just be the beginning of a remarkable comeback. His journey from fame to legal turmoil and now to redemption is a powerful reminder that even the most beloved figures are human. The choices we make, especially under the spotlight, can shape the course of our lives. But it's the ability to rise from our mistakes and keep moving forward that truly defines who we are. For Chumlee, the road to redemption is still unfolding, and only time will tell what the future holds for this former reality TV star. What do you think about Chumlee's chance at redemption? Can he rebuild his life and career after everything that's happened? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and share your opinion. If you enjoyed this story and want to keep up with more celebrity updates, shocking news, and powerful redemption tales, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss out on what's coming next. Stay tuned for more behind-the-scenes stories, exclusive content, and celebrity news right here on VIP Celebrity. Subscribe now and be part of our community. We'll keep you updated on the latest, the most shocking, and the most inspiring celebrity moments. See you in the next video.